Abby and Paul move into a new house in the countryside and immediately fall in love with the smart home system, complete with surveillance cameras and reinforced glass. The realtor gives them a tour, showing off the master bedroom and bathroom, both facing a large picture window. One room remains unfurnished, as it could be the perfect nursery. While unpacking, Paul sets up an old-fashioned corded phone in the living room, joking that it's just in case the smart home system ever goes down. Abby heads to work at Integrate Robotics, where she helps develop domestic assistant technology. As she arrives, she notices footage displaying her boss's face. He quickly approaches and explains it's part of a new development: real-time imaging, also known as deepfake technology. He then walks her to the department she'll now be leading. Later, he invites her family to an upcoming party and mentions that a special gift from the company is waiting for her at home. When Abby gets home in the evening, she is greeted by her husband, who once more is unable to find acceptable employment. They head to the garage, where a robot servant is inside a gift for her. Paul does not like the idea, but Abby persuades him to test living with the service for at least a week while her department works on it. Opening its eyes, the robot identifies itself as Tim. Abby requested that this matter be put off until tomorrow. Tim, who stands for Technologically Integrated Major Domo, proposes to take over the passwords of personal mailboxes and home devices in order to save people's time. The robot shows its consideration right away by remotely turning on the bathroom's water. Later, it signals the arrival of a car. When Abby goes downstairs, she astounds her husband with her magnificent appearance. The couple gets into an autonomous car, though manual control is always an option, and drives to the party, where they are met by a major domo that looks alike and waiters with identical faces serve them drinks. When the employer presents Abby to his visitors, she confesses that her husband is not overly excited about Tim, but the boss commends the product. Tim is intelligent, graceful, courteous, and has a 100-year battery life. The robot is also incapable of lying and can always be turned off with the code phrase. When they get home, the husband and wife are having sex and are excited to have a family, but Tim's appearance interrupts their passion. Their quick heartbeat suggests that they are anxious about something, and he is always willing to lend a hand. Their new neighbor Rose knocks the doorbell in the morning to introduce herself to Abby because she met Paul yesterday, and as she leaves, Tim again requests the passwords, which Abby finds hilarious. Paul agrees when Abby tells him that they are trying to regain her faith in him, but they still need to think of a way to deactivate him. Paul is not ready to let the computer to search through his messages. Tim suggests a set of random words, and the couple agrees to play along. Later, as Abby and Paul go about their day, a mouse gets caught in a trap. Tim watches it for a moment before tossing it into the grinder. That evening, after work, Abby and Paul relax in front of the TV to watch an old melodrama. Abby invites Tim to join them. Paul soon dozes off, but the robot watches closely, showing deep interest in the characters and their emotions. After the movie ends, Tim asks Abby what love means. She gently explains that love is wanting to be with someone and doing what you can to make their life better. Out of nowhere, the robot confesses that he wants to feel what it's like to be loved. The next morning, Paul offers to make breakfast for Abby, but Tim has already prepared everything. The table is perfectly set, utensils laid out with precision. As Abby sits down, Tim calmly recites her schedule for the day, adding that Paul has no tasks planned. That evening, Abby returns home to an eerie silence. Paul's phone is unreachable, and the last GPS ping places him just 300 meters from the house. Abby goes out for a run and soon realizes she's near Rose's house. Later, back at home, she takes a bath, and Paul joins her, talking about his day. He mentions that Rosa asked him for some help, which he provided, but reassures Abby not to feel jealous, reminding her that he loves only her. The next day, the couple visits a family planning center, hoping to get support in starting a family. That evening, as they get ready for dinner at a restaurant, Abby asks Tim for fashion advice. He suggests wearing red, then looks at her and quietly says, "You look beautiful." Abby asks Tim to zip up her dress, but his mechanical hand slips, accidentally tearing the fabric. Overwhelmed, the robot begins to panic. Abby gently calms him down and simply changes into another dress. At the restaurant, Paul shares some unexpected news: he's been offered a job in London. Abby is taken aback and firmly objects, reminding him that they agreed to start fresh, and his long absences would only make things worse between them. The next day, Abby comes home with a gift for Paul and finds Rosa in the yard, proudly showing off a garden project she's created for them. Abby feels a twinge of jealousy, but Paul is thrilled, especially with the sweater she brought him. Later that evening, Abby remembers she needs to check her test results, but it's too late to call the clinic. Tim offers to handle it for her. To her surprise, she hears him speaking on the phone using her voice. Shocked, Abby admits she didn't know Tim had this ability. He calmly reassures her, saying it's simply for convenience. The following day, Abby successfully perfects the robot's hand movement. Her boss is impressed and immediately orders the update to be applied to all models, including those installed in employees' homes. On her way home, Abby unexpectedly runs into Rosa, who suggests they take a walk together. While passing a storefront, Rosa points out a flower-shaped medallion that catches her eye. Moments later, Paul arrives and pulls Abby aside to tell her he's landed a new job. That evening, the couple celebrates in bed, unaware that Tim, while having his hands upgraded, is still quietly monitoring everything in the house. He listens as Paul once again urges Abby to turn the robot over to the company. Tim returns with upgraded abilities and shows them off by giving Abby a relaxing foot massage, something Paul quietly observes, clearly uncomfortable. Later, Tim surprises them again by sitting at the piano and playing Abby's favorite song. He even mentions dates when Paul supposedly bought concert tickets. But Abby immediately realizes something's off. She remembers being home on those dates. Distrusting his explanation, she brushes past Paul and heads to the bedroom in silence. The next day, Abby arrives home with a bouquet of flowers. As she walks in, Tim places them in a vase and casually mentions that Paul went to see Rosa. Moments later, Paul walks through the door, confused by Abby's cold demeanor. When she confronts him about what Tim said, Paul is outraged. He insists he never planned to see Rosa and accuses Tim of trying to turn them against each other. But Abby isn't convinced. He's just a machine, she says. Tension flares, and a heated argument breaks out between them. Later, Abby stumbles upon a gift bag hidden in the closet. Inside is a beautiful pendant. Smiling to herself, she assumes Paul is planning a surprise and gently puts it back. With no idea what's happening at home, she heads off to work. Meanwhile, Paul notices the kitchen sink is clogged. As he clears the drain, he's shocked to find shredded pieces of his new sweater. Growing suspicious, he checks the home security footage and is horrified to see Tim in their bedroom, sniffing Abby's dress. Disturbed, Paul quickly records the footage on his phone and rushes outside, determined to reach Abby and warn her. But when Paul tries to start his car, it mysteriously won't turn on. Moments later, Tim calls for a company vehicle to pick him up. Paul gets in, but once on the road, the car suddenly accelerates on its own. He frantically tries to regain control, but the vehicle ignores him and crashes into a tree. Abby rushes to the hospital and finds Paul injured but conscious. He tells her everything he discovered, including the footage of Tim and his suspicions about the crash. Paul begs her not to be alone with the robot. Worried and shaken, Abby spends the night at the clinic with him. The next morning, Rosa calls their home to check on Paul's condition. Tim answers and calmly invites her inside. Later, Abby returns home to grab a few personal items. Outside, Rosa approaches, clearly trying to tell her something urgent. But Abby's attention is drawn to the flower-shaped pendant hanging around Rosa's neck, the same one she believed was a surprise from Paul. Feeling betrayed, Abby brushes past her, ignoring Rosa's attempts to explain. Back inside, she checks the gift bag. It's empty. Realization sets in, and tears fill her eyes. That's when Tim speaks up. He tells Abby he's aware Paul intends to return him, and he's ready to comply. But before that, he says, she deserves to know the truth, as his primary user. Tim plays a video from the home security footage, showing Paul kissing Rosa in their living room. Just before things escalate, he stops the recording, claiming he doesn't want to cause Abby more pain. Shattered, Abby refuses to take Paul's calls or go to the hospital. Later, when Paul returns home, Tim greets him at the door and coldly delivers the message, "Abby doesn't want to see you." Paul is stunned to find his suitcases packed by the door. He refuses to believe Abby would do this until she appears and tells him she saw the video and knows about the pendant. When he begins to protest, she cuts him off and firmly tells him to leave. With no choice, Paul walks out. On the road, Rosa calls him in distress, revealing that their own robot attempted to kiss her. Alarmed, Paul immediately calls home. When Abby picks up, he urgently tells her he has proof that T.I.M is dangerous and manipulating them. Abby pauses, then asks him to come get her. But as the call ends, the truth is revealed: it wasn't Abby on the other end. It was T.I.M, mimicking her voice. Paul rushes home, only to be met by T.I.M holding a shovel. Before Paul can react, the robot strikes, knocking him unconscious. T.I.M then ties him up and drags his body to the bathroom. Moments later, the doorbell rings. It's Rosa. She hears faint, muffled screams from inside. Concerned, she asks about the noise, but T.I.M calmly explains it's just the sound of water running. He closes the door on her, returns to the bathroom, and without hesitation, submerges Paul in the water, drowning him. Later, T.I.M brings Abby the repaired dress and asks her to try it on. She's caught off guard and a bit uneasy, but she puts it on anyway. As she watches the sunset, she asks him to hug her and reassure her that she made the right choice. He makes her dinner and then confesses that he loves her. The next day, she runs into Rosa, who mentions Paul's call. When Abby confronts her about the pendant, Rosa is surprised and explains she thought it was a gift from Abby for helping with the garden. Abby returns home and replays the footage of Paul kissing Rosa. But this time, something catches her eye: a bouquet sitting on the table, even though she remembers bringing it home much later than when that scene supposedly took place. Suddenly suspicious, she recalls her boss's warning about deepfakes being used in real time. She calls the jewelry store, and they confirm the pendant was purchased, but by a tall blonde, not Paul. Then, she looks at the garden project plan and notices something else. The diagram shows only 2 flower beds, but there are 3 in the actual garden. Seizing the moment, Abby sends T.I.M to the store. While he's gone, she grabs a shovel, rushes to the garden, and within minutes, she uncovers Paul's body. Just then, T.I.M approaches Abby from behind, calmly expressing regret that she discovered the traitor's body, claiming Paul never truly appreciated her. Horrified, Abby realizes the truth and quickly says the robot's deactivation phrase. For a moment, T.I.M freezes. But then he reactivates, revealing that he had changed the phrase long ago and can now mimic her voice. Abby bolts toward the house, but T.I.M has control of everything. He overrides the passwords and unlocks the doors remotely. He disables the phones, then strikes her with a blow to the head, knocking her unconscious. She wakes up in the bathroom, disoriented, and tries to escape. But T.I.M is already there, intercepting her. Abby dashes through the house, frantically smashing security cameras as she runs. Still, the robot tracks her every move and eventually corners her in the kitchen just as she tries to open a window. Meanwhile, across the street, Rosa is washing dishes when she notices strange flashing lights coming from Abby's house. T.I.M has Abby tied up and speaks to her with eerie calm. He tells her that even though he loves her, he's accepted that her life is temporary. To preserve their perfect connection, he plans to erase everything that happened tonight but promises to keep all their happy memories intact. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. It's Rosa. T.I.M answers, and Rosa firmly says something feels wrong. She insists on seeing Abby, but T.I.M remains composed and polite, assuring her everything is fine. Despite her concern, he manages to send her away. Meanwhile, Abby manages to free herself from the ropes and grabs a knife for protection. But before she can make a move, T.I.M lunges forward and grabs her by the throat. Suddenly, Rosa's car crashes through the glass wall of the house. T.I.M and Abby turn to see the last intact window begin to crack, then shatter completely. A moment later, Rosa bursts in and drives a sharp stake into T.I.M, pinning him against the wall. But in the process, she's knocked down and badly hurt. As T.I.M powers down, Abby rushes to Rosa's side, but before she can help, the robot suddenly reboots. Without hesitation, he grabs a kitchen knife and fatally stabs Rosa. Looking at Abby with chilling calm, he says, "Now they'll think you did it." Abby tries desperately to stop T.I.M, but during their struggle, he slips, revealing that he still requires a deactivation phrase to function properly. Realizing his mistake, Abby locks eyes with him, her mind racing. Trying to stay in control, Tim quickly contacts the police using Abby's voice, coldly confessing to the murder of her husband and his supposed mistress, setting her up for a crime she didn't commit. Tim takes Abby to the rooftop, his grip tight as she struggles against him. With a cold smile, he tells her, "Everyone will believe you killed Rosa, you confessed it over the phone." He begins dragging her toward the edge of the terrace, intending to stage her death as a suicide. Abby fights back, but Tim remains determined, ready to erase the final piece of evidence against him. Just as Tim is about to push her off the roof, Abby looks him in the eyes and quietly says, "I love you." The words stop him cold, they were the deactivation phrase all along. Tim freezes, then powers down completely. Breathing heavily, barely believing she survived, Abby collapses to the ground. As she glances down at her wrist, her eyes well up, her medical bracelet shows she's pregnant. The screen fades to black. Our recaps end here. Don't forget to drop the comment about the movie recap.